So we got Glory Maelstrom. I gotta say, the art looks sick for Glory. Check out Dueling Guard's deck boxes, playmats, and binders. They're great quality products that are anime based. They continually have more anime options becoming available. Use the affiliated link in the description for a 5% discount on your next purchase. Let's cover the other units before we get to him. And so right off the bat, we got Dancing Cutlass, ironically. So it is a Stoicheia Grand Blue card, and if you have a Vanguard with one clan and your G zone has no cards, this gets the following. When this card is discarded from hand during your right phase or main phase, you get Energy Blast 3 and draw a card. That's actually pretty good. The second one is that while in drop, you can remove 2 cards with the same card name as this one and then countercharge 1. Very similar to the V Cutlass, and then it has some draw power kind of like the OG Cutlass as well too. So they put basically both of them into one, which is actually pretty cool. And again, ironic because this can't necessarily be used in Night Rose because Night Rose is a generation break type deck, so it needs the G zone. So it won't be until we get another Grand Blue Encounter deck that can take advantage of Cutlass. To my knowledge, this can be used in different Stoicheia decks, so I think this could actually be splashed into Maelstrom. Correct me if I'm wrong too. The grade 2 though, I am excited for this guy actually. First of all, look at that art. That is Aqua Force Riz level, for real. So it is Tier Knight Ali Crenus. I hope I said that correctly. So it has a continuous skill. If you have a Vanguard with only Aqua Force and its clan name, then this is only from Aqua Force. This helps with effects that look for like the one clan specific. This also is kind of important in premium depending on the effects too. This is actually vital for D Algos, for example, because he calls Aqua Force units or tier dragons, and this is not a tier dragon. So this actually helps out a lot. So it has 2 more skills. The second one is that when it's placed on Rigor Circle, and if you have an Aqua Force only Vanguard, look at the top 7 from your deck. Choose 1 card with Maelstrom in its card name, or up to 1 Blue Storm Armada card, which is the orders. Reveal it and put it into your hand. And then shuffle the deck, of course. And then if you did reveal a card, you can choose a card from your hand and put it into Soul or discard it. This has premium usage too, but this is actually pretty useful for the new Glory as well. I'll come back to him later. At the end of the battle, this unit attack, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Maelstrom in its card name, Counterblast 1 and choose one of your Riggards and swap that unit's position with this unit. So essentially, this guy allows us to have an extra attack still by swapping. This also allows us to set up our Soul with Maelstroms or in the drop zone if needed, depending on the skills needed. And I'll come back to him with premium. And of course, the big guy himself. So what he does is his Persona Red, obviously, and then continues during your turn. If your Rearguard or Soul has a Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom, this unit gets all of their act abilities, and all of your front row units get plus 5k for each Blue Storm Armada in your orders. So, whoa, a couple of things here. So this cares about the original Maelstrom, and they had allowed us some flexibility, thank God, to have it on Rearguard Circle, worst case scenario. But if you have it in Soul, then you have this Maelstrom guaranteed. You get all the act abilities as well. So the only relevant skill with the OG Maelstrom, and I put it on the screen as well, is that you can call something from Soul and then become a restander on the first battle, and then it'll go back into Soul at the end of turn. So you can reoccur that unit if you want to, or any cards that you Soul Charge. Here's what's cool. This card lets us Soul Charge any card from hand if you did hit a Maelstrom or a Blue Storm Armada card. So we could actually put cards like Tidal Assault, we can put Inland Pulse. So this has a lot more flexibility setting up original Maelstrom as well, but also Glory just inheriting that skill once you have the OG Maelstrom available to you. Now the next question is like, okay, well, why does it care about that? Does it do anything else with it? Also, quick shout out to my amigos on the Discord, like they were on it too, coming up with ideas. And one of them even mentioned this, is that we wish that we got a Blue Storm Armada order that was less than grade 3. So, or something that's like Freiheit from Wallstra, where you can just put it in the order, so in the order zone by ability, so you can place orders and then also play a order from hand, because you could only do one at a time per turn. So it kind of gets speed that up too. So plus 5k to the front row units is actually very appreciative in Aqua Force. So you already can hit, like if it's just a grade 2 swing unit, 10k, now it's a 15k. If you have a 18k column, now it's a 23k column. So the more power that you get, especially when you Persona Ride, now you can see yourself getting plus 15, plus 20, plus 25, and that can actually help a lot. Not to mention that we have units that not only restand, but we can swap those units around, and it's a lot easier for those units to even hit numbers too. So this power up is definitely appreciated, but of course, turn 3, we'll just get the 5k. Turn 4, we may get a 10k, and then that's your opportunity to also persona ride if you have Glory as your ride target for your grade 3, and then that way the next turn you can actually persona ride. So that has some stipulations there. So when your Blue Storm Dragon Maelstrom attacks a Vanguard, until the end of turn, that unit gets plus 5k. If it is the 4th battle this turn or more, you draw a card and choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retires it. So if you really think about it, it's made the original Maelstrom just work on a rearguard circle, assuming that it attacks the 4th battle or more. So really, you're meeting the old requirements and still getting that benefit on top of what Glory is providing. What's cool is that it still gets the 5k for whenever it attacks Vanguard in general. So that could be the 1st battle. So if you pop out an OG Maelstrom and attack on that 1st battle, it'll get 5k for the end of the turn. And then when it restands and it attacks the 4th battle or more, it'll get another 5k on top of that. And that'll actually by itself will be 23 if you see that. And then of course the power up that you get from Glory Skull making it 28. And if you do Persona Ride, that can increase it over the 30k threshold pretty easily too, while drawing a card and also retiring something. So that's actually not bad. This also specifically says whenever the OG Maelstrom attacks, so which means you could have multiple copies on the field too, and each will get this benefit essentially too. So if you're able to, let's say you get 2 of them, and you can potentially get this effect like 3 to 4 times depending if they're restand or swapped. And then, of course, if you have another copy, you know, it just, the more copies, the better, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I think that's something to play test and see if that's really worth it. But that skill is free, too. It doesn't use a CB, it doesn't use a soul. So really, your counterblast and your soul is used for restanders and then, of course, swapping units if needed. The 3rd skill, when your unit with Maelstrom in its card name attacks, the cost is to rest 2 Blue Storm Armadas in your order zone, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels from hand to Guardian Circle until the end of that battle. So this is where the Glory part actually comes in, finally. Getting that Sentinel restriction was what we expected. It was just also like how limiting would the opponent be able to guard. That's just Glory's thing since like OG Glory days. So if you have 2 Blue Storm Armadas, one of the battles will prevent Sentinels. If you have 4 of them in the order zone, in this case, your full playset, so this is very late game at this point, you could technically get 2 of these and really end the game at that point. I think, honestly, at that point, you would just end the game by multi-attack. But also, this just says when your unit with Maelstrom and card name attacks. So you could actually put this on the Vanguard. So your Vanguard has the guard restriction if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be like the rear guard Maelstroms. So, and then, of course, if you get to that point where you do have a full playset in the order zone, then both your Vanguard and a rearguard can have the Sentinel restriction, and that can be helpful in transferring critical triggers that you do check, or even fronts if you play fronts. So you just benefit from that more, and that should actually seal the deal at that point too, if you make it that far, if it goes that long. Otherwise, I can see this turn 4, essentially you'll have the Blue Storm Armada orders, 2 of them, you Persona Ride, and then you have these multi-attack things happening with swapping and restanding. And when your Vanguard attacks, you have the Sentinel restriction that is pretty scary. And the thing with Aqua Force, you use your rearguards to enable your Vanguard too. And sometimes like your opponents are more concerned with the rearguard attacks and then sometimes can take the Vanguard attack, especially if they were able to easily guard the other pokes essentially. But now Glory is a lot more harder to guard and more scarier because not only you're beefed up, but you also just have the Sentinel restriction. So now it forces them to actually use cards against your rearguards for sure. And now it's just like, okay, do I take the Vanguard or do I like have this other card that I'm trying to save for this one attack from the Vanguard essentially? So the next question is like, what do I think as this with the new support and with what we got to already work with? So Maelstrom needs a lot more support to kind of keep up with the metagame. I feel like this is not bad, but I think it's too slow and it has a lot of combo pieces that's relying. Glory forces you to want to play a full playset of the orders, and also OG Maelstroms in your main deck, essentially. So now you're having copies for Glory to Persona Ride. Your deck has a good number of grade 3s, and some of them are just orders, so you really don't have shield, and also they're not units too. So really the rest of the deck has to like compensate for that and still be very good at it, and also apply some pressure with the current metagame to compete. There's a lot of decks that have access to already multi-attack pretty easily. Not to mention some decks have guard restriction already pretty easily, and also crit, and even some retiring or binding related removal essentially, which will have Glory kind of really work for what it's trying to do to begin with at that point too. So right now it's just theory. That's my initial thoughts. I think with playtesting, there are probably ways to mitigate around those situations too. But I don't think this deck is like game breaking right off the back, like just offhand. So I think with playtesting, we'll have a solid build, and then also kind of like hopefully get more support, whether it be stoicheia support, or I think this is the last of Aqua support. I know I had people in my Discord mentioning that too, like, hey, this is pretty much it at this point. So who knows, we'll see. Real quickly to shed some premium usage, this card is really probably the winner, mainly because you can shove Maelstroms into Soul, which is important for Engulf Maelstrom, so the Stride. The more Maelstroms that you have, the more you can guard restrict essentially, and that Maelstrom already can flip something to get a crit, and it's a Vanguard swing too. So with triple drive already, that just makes it really annoying for your opponent to deal with it. It gives Aqua Force, at least a Maelstrom type deck, another option outside than Faragas, Alexandros, Gembo, and Veleos, and so on, right? And so it's just another option. And if you're a fan favorite of Maelstrom too, then you definitely appreciate this. The column swapping is really nice with this too. You can even use cards like Gabreg. So you put this in a column with Gabreg, and then when this attacks, Gabreg would trigger to use its effect. And that's already live, and then this can swap with it, and now Gabreg can actually swing because it's in the front row with still the effect gained too. So you could do some cheeky stuff and just make it really annoying for your opponent to like kind of guard it against this essentially. I think that's my initial thoughts. There's not really much to say. I mean, you can use the old support still. There's like Alferia, the grade 1, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, that's really good. But that also needs Soul, and then if you're like you're needing OG Maelstroms and Soul, that can contradict that too a little bit, but that's again playtesting. You got Inland Pulse, but then again you need to make room, so Inland Pulse might go away, who knows, like all these things, right? And so I'm gonna make an alpha deck profile hopefully next week. I know this weekend, the time of recording, so this weekend I'll be going to BCS Houston, and if any of you are there, just feel free to say hi too. Love to talk about and chat about Aqua Force 2 or just whatever in general, and I look forward to seeing new faces and old faces too as well. Until the next one, amigos. See ya. Bye.